Hey guys, Dino Films here, and today I have another video for you all, and I'm here with my brother, Calvin.
Yes.
Today, we are unboxing the Mattel Jurassic World Dino Trackers Camouflage and Battle Indominus Rex. Released this year, 2023, literally showed up at Targets in the United States, like this week of June 12th. So here on the box, it says the Camouflage and Battle Indominus Rex, as he's going to camouflage and battle. As you can see here, it says Dino Trackers, which is the name of this whole toy line, and the old Mattel logo, which looks really nice. The Jurassic World logo, very gray and boring, but they did put some like orange on it to give it some pizzazz. Of course, we have blue and beta on here because this is basically the extension of the Dominion toy line. Despite the fact that almost all these dinosaurs were from, especially this one, were even in Dominion or part of it at all. There you can see the Indominus Rex with sort of a description of the lights and the sounds. And here it says it's part of the mountain biome, I guess, which I guess makes sense for its base color, but it can also camouflage as...
Camouflage in the forest, literally in...
Yes, and... that, and it lights up green, so kind of strange, but I digress. Here is just a render on the back. There you can see I think it's the Chomp and Battle Tyrannosaurus Rex. It is from a desert environment, I guess, based on its colors and a little icon there. And it sort of describes like, oh yes, you can use a side attack and swivel the tail, which we will showcase later, and the chomping feature, and the camouflage. And then here it advertises the Jurassic World Facts app, and all of its gloriousness. Engineering the imagination, says Mattel. And then on the bottom here is the scan code for anyone who needs it, and then just some really basic information. So yeah, without further ado, let's get this thing out of the box. Here we have the instructions there, which look very,
Was that like a prototype?
It probably is very basic, a rendition. And then it says it requires 3 AG13 batteries. I believe that's how you say those. 1.5 volts. And it already comes with those, pre-included, but you will probably have to change those out eventually. So when you get it out, the feet are bent, strangely in order to sort of fit in the box, the ankles specifically. So you got to sort of articulate them so that they're more natural. And there she is, the Camouflage and Devour Indominus Rex. It leans a little bit forward, I'd say, but we're gonna zoom in a little bit so we can look at these. So as you can see here, the Indominus looks as best as it's ever had in terms of toys. We'll do some comparisons to some of the older ones, but that head is almost like spot on, which is just amazing. I like how the teeth on this one are actually very nice and pointed. They appear to be a separate piece of rubber that's inserted under the plastic, which is good, meaning there won't be any paint smearing in terms of the teeth. And I think the tongue and the inside of the mouth are also a separate piece of plastic, which makes that sort of difficulty with paint chipping and smearing over time, or smearing onto other dinosaurs, obsolete, which is very nice. And those teeth are nice and a rubbery sort of plastic, pretty malleable, which is very nice. Very nice paint in sort of the finesse tray on the head, and the eye is nicely painted for the most part. There's a little bit of like rundown on like the bottom eyelid, but it's not super noticeable. And then on the other side, it's pretty much the same. And then here's the head on. The teeth look very, very menacing. Online, I was like a little concerned of how the teeth look, but I think they look amazing. Made out of another sort of separate piece is this the quills. They're actually a nice malleable plastic as well, with some gray coloration, and there's some gray paint along the neck. Nice folds and details. As Kellen described, this thing does look a little slimy, which I will agree. Definitely, it seems like some of the detail, especially on like the main body, is a little muted. I would say, in comparison to some other Mattel figurines, which is kind of a shame, but I feel like it's not too bad, and it sort of replicates the movie CGI and such. But there's almost no paint, of course, because the Indominus is just gray and white, but there is some darker gray on the top there, as well as sort of, it's like an airbrush of some kind. It's a little difficult to see, but you can see it there. And then there's the legs. This one has the scan code, which is this trapdoor. So you can see there it has the Biosyn logo, which is a little weird because this is completely in-gen.
Or is it?
Lore. Unknown. The legs are very nicely detailed. The feet have painted toe claws on both sides, which is very good. And the feet are not as large as the previous Indominus, which we'll compare to later, which are very nice scoots and osteoderm scales, and it's just very, very pretty all around. There's some nice folds for like fat and muscle along the Indominus as well. No paint on the tail, a very obvious button. Well, there seems to be like some darkish gray on the tail, but that could be just the lighting. And some nice folds and wrinkles along. And the tail is actually pretty decently sized, all things considered. The proportions on this one are much, much better than the previous. And then the other side is basically exactly the same, except there is no scan code. I really wish they would just put the scan codes on the bottom of the feet. They still have the Jurassic facts, the official mark on the bottom anyways, and then they have one here too, which is weird. But I just wish they would get rid of this sort of feature. Not a huge fan of that. Alright, time for the articulation. So this thing actually has quite a bit of articulation. You can actually pose it quite well. For example, you can lift her up quite a bit, and then also bend her down too. Get some there's just the one joint at the hip, and then you can also move that out a little bit, but not by much, not like some of the other dinosaurs where they move out severely. The arms on this one are not tied to an action feature, unlike the previous, so you can actually articulate them as you wish. There's a joint at the shoulder, allows you to move them out and in. You can move them back and forth, and then at the elbow you can sort of swivel that there, and then move them back and forth too. So you can get quite a range of motion with your Indominus, which I really, really like. Much better than the previous, where it was all tied to action features. They did come out with a battle damage Indominus, but that had a very, very limited release, and it was the exact same sculpt primarily as the previous, so this one is just a lot better sculpt wise and articulation wise as well. And it's just nice that you can get some nice posability with this, much better for toy photography. But this thing also still has a cool action feature. The tail and the head are entirely tied to it. It sort of reminds me of Primal Attack with sort of the swiveling dinosaurs. If you grab the tail here, you can actually swivel the head, and it moves quite a bit, about 85 degrees. Not exactly 90 degrees, but relatively. And then the second part of the action feature involves the moving of the mouth. So this is actually tied to an action feature, which I'll showcase here. If you press down this button here on the tail, she roars, and as you can see there, the camouflage ability. You can see here now we're in much darker lighting, but when you press that button, it glows a very nice green. It's very, very bright on the camera, but I really love that. I think it's one of the coolest action features any Indominus has ever had. I think it also has sounds, as you can hear. I think the sounds are the exact same sounds from the previous Mattel Indominus, like the same soundboard. God, here's the previous Indominus. Freaking absolutely massive in comparison. Oh my god.
Bulkier too.
It's just like a whole different...
It's like adult Indominus.
Yeah, I'd say this is like an adult Indominus. This one has its own fair share of quality control problems. I hope this new one doesn't. Very scared what the future holds. But this one stands, and if it was in its neutral pose, quite a bit higher, and is just way more massive in like every respect. You can see the thickness in the body. I did think this Indominus, the old one that is, was a bit too big, especially when we bring in like a Tyrannosaur. Like, it's just absolutely dwarfs the T-Rex. It's absolutely massive. But I also discovered that, I believe it was said at a toy fair, that this Indominus here wasn't even planned to be sort of quote-unquote in scale or mainline, and that's why it is as massive as it is. But I digress. The quills are made out of just not as malleable of a plastic. This is definitely a nicer texture. The paint is about the same, it's just it looks more defined on the previous Indominus. Or sorry, on the new Indominus. This one, of course, is just has a lot more action. It's much more dependent on its action feature. Like, the legs are like tied together, and the arms are, you can move them a little bit, but they're still part of the action feature. So it's more of just like adjustments, and then the action feature was the roaring with red light in its esophagus, and then this thing's like super clunky. And then the hands, very loud. The sculpt detail is also, again, it seems more defined on the old Indominus, but I would say the proportions are just much better on the new one, and that's how it beats it out. I mean, just look at the foot size comparison. It's insane how massive this old one was. So I'm very happy with the new one. Sort of, as you can see there, the proportions are just not that great. The tail is so small, the head is huge, the feet are huge. This one is just a lot more refined. It just looks so much more movie accurate. The only thing that's, I guess, a little disappointing in conjunction is that this one has more muted detail overall, but I feel like it's not too bad, especially with the in-film model looking more like this anyways. So yeah, that's this Indominus, but there's also the infamous we've come a long way. And then Hasbro Jurassic World. No, this thing just looks worse and worse with time.
I've seen that other one, but
oh yeah, the hybrid, the hybrid FX, I think is what it's called. That one's better than this one, but I don't know if it's better than the first Mattel Indominus. But no, this it's just not really comparable. Here is the Grab and Growl Indoraptor, which is way too huge, by the way. Here we have the Gigantosaurus. It seems like they're moving or making their large carnivores all a slightly smaller size, especially the Giga. They're around the same size, actually, in terms of height. I'd say this Indominus is definitely more faithful to its movie counterpart in comparison to the Giga. Another figure I hope they update, the Spinosaurus. Definitely a bit smaller in terms of height. The Indominus definitely is a little larger in terms of length too.
Yeah, because the Spinosaurus' tail is so tiny.
Yeah, Spinosaurus just needs an update. because, oh my gosh, it does not look, it looks pretty decent for what it is, but like, in comparison to this Indominus, which looks pretty accurate to its movie counterpart, and you just have this Spinosaurus that just looks alright, you know, looks kind of like Jurassic Park Spinosaurus, relatively. I feel like this one should be next. Here we're going smaller. Here's a Velociraptor. Most people have at least some form of attack pack, or wild pack, danger pack, ferocious pack, Velociraptor of some kind. The raptor is very small, but it looks pretty accurate, I would say. You know, the Indominus isn't like obscenely massive. This one, anyways. Here we have the Red Rex from the Jurassic Park 93 Classic series. As you can see, it is pretty good scale, I'd say. They're pretty neck and neck. Right there, you can see that they size up quite well. The Indominus is a little bit taller, which is pretty accurate to the movie, but the Red Rex is definitely a bit thicker, I'd say, in comparison. This might even be a little bit better if this was like a full-grown Indominus. You have the Extreme Chomping T-Rex. I think these sized really well. This Indominus is just a bit larger, but no, I feel like these two go really well together. Oh. Here's the Ford Explorer from the 93 Classic line. I feel like these scale pretty well. You don't want the Indominus to be, again, too big. I feel like it scales pretty well. Something I wanted to compare is the Ankylosaurus. It's
Still tiny.
Yeah, the Destroy and Devour Indominus made the Ankylosaurus look absolutely puny, but so does this one. So I think it's more of just the Ankylosaurus being way too.
Other herbivores are really small.
Yeah. No, it's kind of ridiculous. The Triceratops is also very small. And it would be nice if we got a bigger Ankylosaurus in the main line, but I'm happy we're getting a larger trike soon. Stay tuned for a review of that on this channel, because that's like one of the greatest figurines I've ever seen in my entire life. Here is the Indominus in comparison with a Hammond Collection Parasaurolophus and Claire Deering. Just, you know, a human in the scale. I think she looks pretty good next to it. I mean, it doesn't seem like she's too small or too large in comparison to the Indominus. I'm definitely liking this size of figure a bit more. Still absolutely chomp and destroy any human figures that you have and thrash them about, which is good. Speaking of thrash, here is the Thrash and Throw Tyrannosaurus Rex. Definitely like a bit large in comparison to this Indominus. Again, it seems like they're changing the size of the large carnivores, which I felt were all kind of a little too big, relatively a bit thicker than the Indominus, and I think a little bit longer too. But I think the proportions on this Indominus are ultimately better, and I'm happy that this Indominus is actually a pretty decent size. And it's just proportioned well, sculpted well, and the teeth and the head sculpt alone is impressive. I'm assuming in the near future, this Indominus will be used as sort of the base for a potential Hammond Collection figurine, because the sculpt detail is just so well done. It's one of the better figures one of the best figures that Mattel has made, definitely this year. The sculpt detail and the proportions and the action feature alone are all very, very nice. So there's a lot here for collectors, a lot here for toy photography, kids who just want an Indominus figurine. I feel like this is easily the best Indominus that we've ever received. Thank you all so much for watching. This can be found at Target at the moment, and I believe it's also on Entertainment Earth, but check your Targets and see if it's in store. I got this for $40, but that's because it's on sale right now, so please I would recommend getting it while it's on the sale. Hopefully it's available at your Target. And yeah, I shall see you all in the next video. Goodbye!
Hey guys, Dino Films, and today it's another video, and today we're doing the Dino Trackers Indominus Rex unboxing video.
Hello everyone, it's me, ding ding ding, and today we're playing another video. Wait, what?
Playing another video,
This is bad, okay. Hey guys!
Dino Films, and today it's another video. Today we're doing the Indominus Rex Dino Trackers unboxing.
This is bad. Speaking of thrash, God. If we grab the tail here, my giant arm's in the way.
Yeah, come on, dog.